Hi, I'm Trish. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back. If you're new and don't know who the heck I am and what I'm doing, I make fun videos, tutorials about anti-aging, beauty, health, lifestyle. But in my personal life, I am a registered nurse who now is a full-time educator with my own private certification business. So I teach doctors, dentists, nurses, healthcare professionals of all different sorts, certifications for trauma, advanced life support, and CPR. Well, guess what? This week that I'm filming is CPR Awareness Week. So I wanted to make a tutorial for you guys of all genres, whether you're healthcare or not, of an overview of what to do if you come across a victim in cardiac arrest. Now, I encourage all my viewers to take a certification class. If you know me and you're from the Midwest, come to my business and take your class with me. I would love it, and we will have fun, and I will sing and laugh, and it'll be a good time. As good as it can be when you're practicing on a fake dead person. But wherever you're at, I really highly encourage you to take a CPR class. But today, I'm going to do a tutorial for you of just a general overview. It's hard to make it narrowed down, one size fits all, because we do tweak and adapt whether you're a layperson or healthcare professional. So I'm kind of going to give you just an overall generalization of what you can do to hopefully help save a life. So come along with me in my classroom. Let's learn some CPR. Staying alive, staying alive. Hi, all right, let's begin. First thing we're going to talk about is you come across a victim. Before you enter the scene, what's the first thing we're going to do? We are going to clear the scene. Scene safety. So, number one, scene safety. Now, sometimes I feel like that gets a little cliche for people, but I do like to remind people one sad story. I know a local lady, local nurse like myself, came across a car wreck off duty, and she ran out to help the victim, and she stepped in a ditch, and there was a power line down, and it killed her instantly. So obviously tragic for that family, but we can't help others if we are not safe ourselves. So scene safety, that's all we're going to say about that depressing point. Point number two, our scene is safe. The person is just laying there and we don't know why, and they don't appear to be moving, and they're looking a little funky, a little creepy. I do find that a lot of lay people, just out of the goodness of wanting to help, run up and start doing CPR. No, we don't do that because they may not be in cardiac arrest. We're hoping they're not in cardiac arrest. So we want to see if we can wake them up. So if you are old school like me, we used to do, Annie, can you speak, Annie? You try to arouse them. You try to establish unresponsiveness. So two, establish unresponsiveness. Because they can be laying there for a lot of reasons. They could have had a seizure, they could have had a diabetic issue, they could be drunk. We don't know. So we're not even checking the pulse yet. We're just trying to wake them up so they don't wake up. We're all by ourselves. What are we gonna do? Pray. Yes, probably. We're gonna call for help. Help! Call 911. You look around. If there's anybody around, find somebody who looks like they're not losing their stuff. You call 911, assign them a role, because everybody panics, a lot of people panic, and they expect the other person to do it. You go see if you can find an AED. So establish your roles. So 3, call for help. 911, and whoever calls 911, tell them that they need to go after they make the call, wait by the road, wherever EMS is going to come, and take them to where the victim is so EMS isn't running down 3 different hallways. Ask people to look for an AED and bring them back. Now we can finally touch our patient or our victim. So if you're a healthcare provider and you're trained, you're going to check the pulse. We check the carotid pulse right here on the sides of your neck. You never want to do that simultaneously. That to me kind of seems like a given, but we can occlude our artery. So one side, carotid. And how long are we going to check? Oh wait, you guys can't answer me in real time. I'm used to people being here in my classroom. We're gonna check 5 to 10 seconds. So we're checking for that carotid. Check your carotid right now. Don't do both sides. Check your carotid. Do you feel it? 5 to 10 seconds. So we're checking the pulse. 5 to 10 seconds. And we're gonna scan the chest at the same time. We're looking for any breathing or what they call agonal breathing or agonal breaths. And that is often end-of-life breaths where the patient is almost gasping, but it's really not true respirations. And it's gonna kind of sound like, If we hear that and we're not a medical professional, American Heart likes us to go ahead and start compressions. Now I say if we're not a medical professional. For us, if I go to check my patient's pulse and they have a pulse but they're not breathing, I'm gonna do what we call the bag mask valve and help them breathe. But for lay people out in the public, you will go ahead and do compressions. So, we're gonna write down our compressions and we're gonna talk about when, where, why, how, all that good stuff in just a second. Generally, after 30 compressions, but again, I'm gonna talk about numbers in a second, then we're gonna do breaths. Or respirations. So this is where somebody could give mouth to mouth. Now, honestly, a lot of people don't do it anymore because infection control, totally get that, that makes sense. But if you were willing and wanted to, say it was your family member, you still could give mouth to mouth and you're pinching that nose and you're covering your mouth completely on theirs and you're breathing just until the chest rises over 1 second. If you have a pocket mask, like a lifeguard carries, even better. You can put that on there. It has a special valve, so nothing, I'm trying to be sensitive to the non-healthcare people. Puke is what we're talking about. Nothing can come up from the patient while you're blowing in. It's a one-way valve. So you would do respirations if you're so inclined. Again, we're tweaking this a little bit because if you are not trained to give mouth-to-mouth or respirations or don't feel comfortable with the pulse, you can do compressions only. You are still acting almost like an artificial heart. You are making that patient's blood go through their body and you're perfusing blood and oxygen. So something that I often say that, again, I think lay people are a little confused about. If someone's in a cardiac arrest, they're essentially dead. Their heart is stopped, they're not breathing. So we are acting as an artificial heart, perfusing oxygen and blood, hoping that they will get a return of spontaneous circulation. So we're just kind of buying time, and we don't have a lot of time. So again, you could do mouth to mask, or in the hospitals, EMS, healthcare professionals, we put the pocket mask, which is connected on the end of this bag mask valve, we put it over the patient like this. That's a good look, huh? And the bag mask valve connects to it, and we'll demonstrate in just a minute. And we do respirations. Whew, that felt funny. And we're gonna squeeze this bag about halfway through. 2 breaths just till the chest rises. All right, let's talk numbers. All right, so we just talked about the order of CPR. I didn't mention how long do we do it? Or when do we stop to reassess? Do we just keep doing endlessly? No. We want to stop every 5 cycles of CPR, which works out to be about 2 minutes on an adult. Now that number can change if we're doing 2 rescue or kids, but we'll talk about that another time. We're just focusing today on adult. So we're going to do 5 cycles of 30 to 2, or that works out to be about 2 minutes. And we're gonna stop at the 2-minute mark and we're gonna do 3 things. We're gonna recheck the pulse to see if we got them back. We're gonna check the rhythm if we have an AED. It times it. That's why I joke and say AEDs are so easy, a blonde can use them. It times it at the 2-minute mark. If you're ACLS certified, critical care, advanced nursing, physicians, you can look at a physical defibrillator monitor and read the rhythm, and that's what we do, and then we decide if we're going to defibrillate or not. Then the third thing that we do at the 2-minute mark is we switch rescuers, because studies have found that after 2 minutes, most people cannot sustain doing compressions to the right depth and rate. Now, when I worked in the ER, I'd come along with my little skinny bony arms and I'd say, "You ready to switch?" And these big buff guys in the ER would go, "I got it, no!" And I would think, I don't think you got it, because they're sweaty and look like they're about to have a heart attack. But studies have shown, typically, if we don't switch out at the 2-minute mark, we don't sustain that proper depth that we should. Let's talk numbers. We're almost done. If I have an adult victim, how many compressions to breaths? Well, I already said it. If you were listening, we're gonna do 30 compressions to 2 breaths if we're all by ourselves. If there's one rescuer, that's a bad day, going to the store and you come across a victim by yourself. If I have 2 or more rescuers, I'm at a grocery store and people come to help me, or if I'm back working in the ER, or if I'm on EMS, if I have 2 or more rescuers, I'm still going to do 30 to 2. 30 compressions, 2 breaths for the adult victim. How deep? We know that depth is important. How deep should we press? 2 inches to 2.4. Okay, I get it. 2.4 sounds a little dorky, but that's what they determined was the proper depth. And I think when you convert that to centimeters, it's like 5 centimeters and it makes more sense. But you're just estimating. Obviously, we don't have a yardstick during CPR, but 2 to 2.4 typically will compress the right depth of the sternum to make that heart compress. When we are coming up on our compressions, that's when the heart refills with blood. Now, child. We're not going to demonstrate child and infant in this video. I'll do that in another video, but I am going to talk to you about the numbers for comparison, because so many of my students get them confused. A child, American Heart defines as 1 year to puberty. So we're just estimating. We've got this, heaven forbid, child at the scene, and we're just looking, okay, this falls in the child category. We're going to do 30 compressions to 2 breaths or respirations if we're all by ourselves. But here's where it gets a little wonky. If I have 2 or more rescuers to help me, we're gonna do 15 to 2. We wanna get back on that chest quicker. Kids don't do as well if we're not getting right back on the chest. Depth is gonna be 2 inches. For our littles, we could have a whole conversation, but we're not going to. I've done it in ER. It's one of the most unpleasant things in life, but the chance of possibly bringing one back makes me continue to want to strive to teach this and teach it well. Infant we define as less than 1 year old. 1 rescuer, we're going to do 30 to 2. 2 or more rescuers, we're going to do 15 to 2. And our depth on our babies is going to be 1.5 inches. Now, a lot of my students say, I can't remember all the numbers, and I see it when they come to class. Certifications are every 2 years. They often get confused when, where, what, how. This is my Trishism. This is how I remember it. It's always 30 to 2, except for 2 rescuer kiddos. That helps me. That may do nothing for you, but that's what helps me. It's always 30 to 2, except for 2 rescuer kiddos, child or infant. One thing we didn't talk about, again, because I'm not emphasizing the child-infant CPR on this video, but just because I'm putting this all up here, when you go to check the pulse on a child or infant, you're going to check with the brachial with the infant. If that pulse is less than 60, with signs of poor perfusion, you're going to start CPR as if they don't have a pulse at all. Why? Well, if you think about it, a 2-year-old's pulse might normally be 110, 120. You got a kid that you've come across, say, in the ER, because this typically isn't just like a fast-track snotty nose kid. This is typically like a trauma or drowning or something horrendous. And you come in and you check that pulse on that baby and it's 50, and that baby's gray or blue. That tells you that, yeah, they have a heartbeat, but it is not perfusing the blood and oxygen through the body. So we gotta help. So you will start compressions. So no pulse on an adult, we start CPR compressions. If it's less than 60 with signs of poor perfusion on our kiddos, we will go ahead and start compressions. All right, so that's the number game on our quick CPR tutorial. Let's take a look at compressions in action. Here we go. All right, you guys have stayed with me this long. You ready for a demonstration? If we're gonna do compressions, we are going to find this little tiny bone down here, and we call this the xiphoid process. We want to put 2 fingers on that xiphoid process, and right above that is where our hand lies. When we do compressions, we're going straight down over the top of the chest, and we are trying to compress for an adult 2 to 2.4 inches. My mannequins are feedback mannequins that let me know if I'm successful in that. So if I'm hitting the correct depth, you're gonna hear a click. If I'm doing the right rate, the right rhythm, which is 100 to 120 compressions per minute, you guys have all heard, I'm sure, that's the same rhythm as staying alive, or another one, bites the dust, which is not very positive, but it's the right rhythm, or the ever annoying baby song, baby shark do-do-do-do-do. But seriously, if you have no rhythm, and I teach students that have no rhythm, I won't call them out on it, but I'm like, I tell them to sing these songs in their head. So we're gonna do our 30 compressions, and then we're gonna do our 2 breaths. Now I'm gonna use a pocket mask with a little cardboard blowy thing so I don't have to touch the pocket mask, and then you will see me breathe into the mannequin. All right, here we go from the top. Oh my gosh, there's a victim on the ground. They don't appear to be moving. You're just gonna have to bear with my acting skills. The scene is safe. Hey, can you hear me? Buddy, can you hear me? Oh my gosh, this doesn't look good. Help, call 911. You, go find an AED. I'm gonna check his pulse for 5 to 10 seconds. While I'm scanning his chest, he's got nothing. I'm gonna find my hand placement. I'm gonna start compressions. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And that, my friends, is a cycle of CPR. So hopefully I saved the guy and he can go off in the sunset. Thank you guys for joining in this special episode on CPR Awareness Week of That's So Trishy.